Welcome everybody back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. This is the Smackdown Lowdown as we go back through the last week's Smackdown show, as well as WWE news. Some of the news has hit the week. We're going to start with that, and the news broke yesterday that Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Tamina have all been removed from the internal roster within the WWE. And also, MVP posted a salute figure like that. Could be indicating that his time with WWE is over. Quite surprising with this. Bobby Lashley's done some great work, and he's kind of been lost with all the bloodline stuff and everything else that's happened. And moving to SmackDown probably wasn't the best of ideas. He started a group with Street Profits, and it never really got going. To be honest with you, we was all looking forward to it. It was all meant to be a heel group. We were like, "Oh, this could be what the Street Profits need," because they've been faces for so long. Got a bit stale, but it never kicked off as a heel group. And now it seems as though Bobby Lashley will be leaving the WWE upon contract expiry. Does open up a world of possibilities as to where he could go. Don't think AEW is the best place for him, to be quite honest with you. Not because he's not good enough. I just don't think AEW would be able to book Bobby Lashley correctly, if that makes sense. But also, upon that as well, TNA would seem a viable solution for him. I think that would be a good place to go if it was possible. We had a great run in TNA. They're doing crossovers with WWE as well. So, it would make perfect sense for Bobby Lashley to perhaps cross the line, so to speak, and go over to SmackDown. They could have used him in NXT even. It's not a demotion going down there. They could have easily had put him on NXT and maybe had a few feuds over there, like they're doing with Anderson and Gallows and people like Michin. Mia Yim's been on there a few times as well. So it would have been, a decent opportunity for them to do that. I don't think, Bobby Lashley's always a good one to have around in the WWE. So I'm surprised that potentially they're getting rid of him. Obviously, we haven't seen Omos in ages as well, which leads me to MVP. I mean, he was a manager for Omos. He was a manager of the Hurt Business. We haven't even discussed the Hurt Business in WWE. That was another missed opportunity, really, for the WWE, in my opinion. But MVP seemingly on his way out. What does the future hold for Omos? We haven't seen him in ages. I can't remember the last time we saw Omos, to be honest with you. Difficult one. With MVP, if he's not wrestling, Omos isn't being used. Is he just a waste of a wage? Perhaps I don't know what the thing is with MVP. Don't know about how big of a loss he's going to be. I don't mean that horribly either. When I say that, I just don't see if he's not wrestling where he fits into the WWE. If they're not, obviously, they're not moving forward with the Hurt Business. Could have gone into Lashley's group with the Street Profits, perhaps, but that, as I said, that never really got off the ground. So it's a little bit awkward, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, MVP potentially leaving the WWE. Tamina Snuka is not a surprise. I mean, I haven't, again, we go back to when the last time we even saw Tamina was, it has been so long. She is talented. There's no doubt about it. She's one, actually, that I think TNA could actually do with. I think she would be very useful in that knockouts division, to be honest with you. But she's not done anything in years in the WWE. So it does seem as if that one's really a no-brainer. If it's contract expiry, it seems perfectly normal that they would not renew Tamina's contract. Again, it's nothing against Tamina, but she's done nothing there for years. She must be as frustrated as what they are, mate, perhaps. And also there is that thing about, there was talk of her even retiring. I think I remember reading a potential retirement of her recent, about 6-7 months ago. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that hasn't been discussed. Maybe she could even be a coach in WWE. Who knows? But in regards to Tamina leaving, not a big surprise, in my opinion. But nevertheless, it'll be a shame to see him go, but we wish them well. If that's the case, we look forward to seeing what's next with all three of those talents. Now, SmackDown this week. pretty much again revolved around Cody and the bloodline. Now, we do know that Cody and Solo will go one-on-one at SummerSlam in just under 2 weeks' time, which is going to be, it should be an interesting one. Will we see the return of a Z Tribal Chief? Maybe, who knows? We know that it's coming up. So, and I think they will save it for SummerSlam. I don't see him just appearing on SmackDown. Now, they did tape 2 weeks worth of SmackDowns this week because they're touring, I believe, Japan coming up this week. So they have taped 2 weeks already. With Cody and the Bloodline this week, it started with Cody and a promo, which led to A-Town Down Under coming out. They were blaming Cody for the Bloodline attack last week. And eventually it sets up a match between Cody and A-Town Down Under with a mystery, with Cody having to get a partner ready. Randy Orton was not there this week on SmackDown. So it was a case of, Cody trying to find another partner. So that was one thing. We'll get into what happened later on. Carmelo Hayes and Andrade, though, actually had a really good one-on-one match. It was nice to see it have a bit of time to it. Didn't go massively long. Could have gone longer, to be quite honest with you. But it's nice to see two wrestlers who we haven't seen quite as much of as maybe what we should have. Andrade, since coming back, has been, a bit part if best. And that's not, again, not a hit at Andrade when I say those words. He's just not been anywhere near really where he should be. He is the speed champion, of course, for those of you that watch speed on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. And Carmelo is another one that coming up from NXT. The concern with Carmelo coming up from NXT was it was always going to be how they use him on the main roster. Has he been used correctly? I mean, he did start with some big matches like Cody and Randy and people like that, dwindled down a little bit at the moment, and he's now, he lost to Andrade this week on SmackDown by the message. So it is interesting to see where they fit in. Carmelo was NXT champion, of course, and it's really difficult to see where they end up from here. Do they end up anywhere from here? What's next? What goes on? And, I do find it a little bit hard for Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, just because they just need to find some ground with them. Maybe they're going to enter a bit of a feud. Maybe that could be the way to go for these two guys. But I feel as if right now they're just, again, SmackDown just seems to be a difficult place to be on if you're not a part of the bloodline or in that bloodline feud. Now, we also know, just on the back of that WWE have signed a Hukaleo, which is yet another member of the bloodline from Japan. So he will be soon debuting on WWE TV. When, we don't know. Will he be a part of the new bloodline or Roman's bloodline? We don't know. But SmackDown seems to be a very much of a struggle place at the moment. If you're not a part of that or you're not in that feud, you're seemingly lost in a bit of a shuffle. But nevertheless, Andrade does pick up the win over Carmelo Hayes in a really good match, actually. Going back to the women now, Bayley and Nia Jax, they had a bit of a to-do on one of those sort of UFC style interviews, camera on camera. Interestingly enough, Bayley did call Nia big and reckless, and she injures a lot of people and there's bits and pieces like that. But later on in the night, which was a bit more of an interesting one, Bayley ended up smashing up Tiffany Stratton's main event briefcase. So Tiffany Stratton had a match with Michin Mia Yim, which Michin picks up the victory, actually, and Tiffany was with Nia Jax on this. Bayley comes out and absolutely, she sends Nia into the timekeeper's area. She hits Nia Jax with the briefcase and she destroys Tiffany Stratton's Money in the Bank briefcase. Now, obviously, without the briefcase, she can't cash in. There was rumors that Tiffany was actually going to change the briefcase up a little bit, make it sort of more tippy time. So we're expecting perhaps a pink briefcase on the show, off the shoulder number, maybe, I don't know. But her smashing up the briefcase does allow that to happen. Good little progression with this, because it will be interesting to see when Tiffany cashes that in. I'm still saying SummerSlam in 2 weeks. Tiffany will cash that briefcase in on the winner of that match, which I think will be Bayley. The title run from Bayley has just seemed a little bit weak, if you ask me. I haven't been a big fan of the Bayley title reign. She works Her reign as a heel was a lot better than a face reign. I'm not sure with the Bailey as a face now because she's still. It was fine when she was the hugger and all of that stuff. She'd come out, all the things would pop up, and all of that sort of jazz. I don't see her as that. Obviously she's changed the character. The character's changed, and now it's kind of gone in a different direction. So when she turned face again this time, after the feud with Damage Control, it hasn't really come off, in my opinion. I felt as if it's been a little bit weak. I'm not sure the character suits a face, if that makes sense. So a little bit, yeah, a little bit concerned with that reign. Perhaps Nia would be better off winning. Maybe Tiffany cashes it in on Nia. Who knows? I'm just not been a fan of Bailey's title reign as it stands. But nevertheless, Bailey will be going against Nia Jax in a couple of weeks' time. Michin beats Tiffany Stratton this week on SmackDown. It was a good match, and then Bailey crushes the Money in the Bank briefcase. So interesting times in the women's division, and we'll see what happens in just a few short weeks at SummerSlam. Speaking of SummerSlam, LA Knight, yeah, and Logan Paul had their face-off contract signing, whatever you want to call it. It was your general, contract signing that you'd normally get on SmackDown. These never go according to plan. Logan Paul did call LA Knight by his real name, Sean, which, interesting enough. But yeah, it got all signed. It's all set for SummerSlam. There was a bit where, as usual, the brass knucks. He moved. He tried to hit BFT. And Logan Paul run to the outside. So it did get a little bit, as contract signings go, it was just your average contract signing. These things are never as straightforward as it seems. Generally these things end up in a fight or something generally happens that someone goes for a table or whatever. And it was what it was. It builds up in 2 weeks' time. But WWE need to hit the button on LA Knight. If he loses at SummerSlam, I think that's it. He's still getting the reactions, he's still getting everything. But if they don't hit the trigger on LA Knight now, forget it. It will never happen. And again, they need to do it while it's still hot. It's not as hot as it was. It's nulling down a little bit. So they need to hit it and strike while there is still some heat in that iron, so to speak. If LA Knight fails to win at SummerSlam, then that's it. As far as I'm concerned, LA Knight's finished at that point. Logan Paul has been the champion that you would expect him to be here and there, some events. And this is what I mean. The biggest issue I have is your champions need to be on the show every week in a capacity. They don't necessarily need to wrestle every week, but they need to be on the show every week, and they need to be defending champions. Not again, you don't need to defend the title every week, but there needs to be a consistent element of champions on shows. And obviously the consistent element of having matches, not every week, and a consistent element of title defenses, again, not every week. But Logan Paul's been champion now for over 200 days and has had about 3 or 4 defenses, which really isn't, it's nowhere near what you would expect from a champion, and we know you can argue Roman Reigns went months, but there was the difference with the Roman Reigns situation when he was champion, and I know sometimes it went months before a defense was held, was that there was so much around it. He was still on the shows. There were storylines going on around him that would mean that it's fine. You got away with it because the champion was still on the show. It's a bit of a contradiction to what I said about them being on shows, them having matches regularly, I know. But because the storyline was so engrossing, it gives you a bit more, or it gave a little more opportunity or a bit of leeway for Roman not to have to wrestle every week or defend the championship every so often. And you got away with it for that reason. But for this, no, I don't think there is a reason for LA Knight, for Logan Paul not, contractually, I get it, but don't put a title on him, and LA Knight now, it's make or break at SummerSlam for me personally. Anyway, that's my opinion, is that it's definitely make or break for LA Knight at SummerSlam. Now, next week on SmackDown, just to let you know, there's going to be a #1 contendership match. It will be Gauntlet. It will be Street Profits. It will be the Bloodline. It could be Fatu, it could be Tonga or Tanga, whoever it be. The OC, Pretty Deadly, Liga del Fantasma, Baron Corbin, and Apollo Crews will be in that, and the winners of that will take on the DIY, expecting probably at SummerSlam perhaps, which would be interesting. LA Knight will collide with Santos Escobar, and Bailey and Michin will go against Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton, following up from the match where Michin beat Tiffany and Bailey destroyed the briefcase. So that'd be interesting next week to see those matches. And then we mentioned earlier on in the show, Cody Rhodes had to find a partner to take on A-Town Down Under. He had a partner, and that partner was Kevin Owens, of course. Who else would it be other than Kevin Owens? It seems to be him, Randy, and Kevin against the Bloodline at the minute. Cody and Kevin win the match, gets with the Crossroads to win, but it was more to do with after-match. Yet again, another Bloodline beatdown. They had Owens's neck in between a chair. They threw it into the steel ring post, and they put the Ulafala over Solo's head again. But the Bloodline are raising hell on SmackDown every week now. A beatdown is happening. Obviously, SummerSlam being 2 short weeks away. Are we going to crown Solo Sikoa the new heavyweight champion? Will Roman Reigns come back to cost Solo Sikoa the championship? We don't know. But right now on SmackDown at the minute, the Bloodline are raising hell on that brand. And it's been interesting. Look, it's 2.0 Bloodline. It's not Roman, but you know where this story is going, right? You know there's going to be a Bloodline battle. I'm all here for that. I can't wait for it. And it's just a matter of when it happens, not if. But you know what? SmackDown was okay this week. It didn't live up to the heights of normal SmackDowns for me. The Bloodline bit was good. Continuation of storylines elsewhere with the women. Chelsea Green did beat, Bianca Belair did beat Chelsea Green in a rather forgettable women's match. If I'm honest, it's not a hit on those two women. It was more a case of bad booking than it was, bad booking on the WWE's part than the women's part. So, okay, nothing special is the word this week on SmackDown. But we'll be back with Raw tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll be hitting you with the Raw Reloaded show as well. Monday Night Raw will be good tonight. We've got the Blue Meanie coming up this week as well. And the usual review shows will be hitting this week as well. So keep an eye out on HTT Buckle on Twitter, Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast, all social media outlets. And until next time, everybody, you have been watching the SmackDown review on the Hitting the Turnbuckle channel. Buckle down, stay safe, goodbye.